Hello, this is Julie and JP over here at Book of Hours. Welcome to Bookmark. This is our new weekly podcast that we plan on doing from this point forward to put a little more content on our page, but also to sort of recap the week's events because things seem to be happening
on a very fast pace, right?
At a very fast pace.
We certainly can't keep up in the essay format.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we'd like to do is between the times that we're working on our video essays or our media essays, we would like to check in with our friends and followers and just kind of do a quick discussion about some of the things that were brought to our attention by our friends and followers so that you know that we're paying attention to you.
As well as things that we notice around.
And things that we notice.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we talk about might be what's going on directly in our neighborhood or our city, our zip code in particular. So it may not apply to you personally, but I think it does give some perspective when you have when you can bring a personal story into the dialogue. So this is what it's called, Bookmark. And so today is the 29th of June. We thought Monday, June 29th would be a good day to start.
Yeah.
And so once a week we'll be doing this. It may not be the same day every week, but we'll try to make it as consistent as possible so you can set your clock to it.
Well, originally we were going to do this on Friday, but we knew that there were going to be some things going on during the weekend that we wanted to kind of capture if they turned into something significant.
Right. Plus Friday, July 3rd, is his birthday.
Well, I meant this past Friday.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Oh,
yeah.
yeah, we were going to do it last Friday.
Yeah.
But, okay, so the first thing that we want to do is thank our supporters and our followers, but especially a warm thank you to David Whitehead of Truth Warrior for hosting us on his channel.
It was a 3-hour conversation that we had on video with him on his channel. And it was great. It was like somebody described it, one of the commenters described it as sitting around a dinner table with a good glass of wine. And it did feel kind of like that. We didn't have any wine. We didn't have any cocktails like we used to. We used to have cocktails when we did these things. But just water today. But same with the other day too. But we talked for 3 hours and we talked about our video work and our new video coming up. We'll get into that in a little bit.
And we talked about just the general reaction to what's going on. We had a conversation. It wasn't necessarily like an interview.
Yeah.
We've never really been interviewed. We were interviewed by a local newspaper when we first moved here.
Yeah.
But we've never really been interviewed by a podcaster with that many subscribers on his channel. We were never so visible before, so it was more like a conversation, like old friends getting together to chat, which was really nice. We also would like to thank everyone for making our most popular video, which I think has about 157,000 views on it.
We've never seen any numbers like that ever.
Right. We would like to thank our supporters and all of those people in the state of Pennsylvania who have made that video go viral. That is kind of an incredible achievement.
Right, and it helped make our last video essay, The Great Reset, go over 1,000 views, which is, high for us. So
it helped.
Yeah.
I think what's really cool about that too is that, the term The Great Reset is being is being test ballooned out there in mainstream. I think the New York Times used the term when they were talking about how somebody in royalty had mentioned the Great Reset.
It was Prince Charles.
Was it Prince Charles who mentioned it?
He
and
made
other people
he made a speech.
Right, and other people have brought it up too. The Great Reset. So, the fact that we're getting the term out there so that people will start asking, well, what does this mean?
Well, what it was, and it was released the around the time that we did the video. they released this term, and with like 2 videos with Prince Charles doing a speech about it. And it's actually going to be the theme of the next Davos conference in late January, early February, where billionaires tell millionaires how middle-class people live. So, and so it's the Great Reset, and there's a lot going on with that, and there's a number of people who've been commenting on it. We caught it early, and so we may not have covered it exactly, but I think we got the flavor of it. I think we got the idea of what's going on with that.
Yes,
because we had been doing research on the things leading up to that announcement, and I think it's just basically it's a way of marketing all those ideas into one easy kernel. Okay, so all the work that Alison McDowell has done, Corey Morningstar has done, that we were able to glean and take and put into that video, really talks about what the Great Reset is anyway, and the Fourth Industrial Revolution as well.
That's true. So by having the one video, which has 157,000 views on it, it helped bring people to that term because we used it in our title.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it started to stimulate a conversation with people who maybe aren't aware of what's going on outside of mainstream press, outside of
the whole COVID conversation as well. Hey, I wanted to back up again real quick to David. So his page, it's true. We said it already, but it's his YouTube page is Truth Warrior. You look that up, and there's lots of Truth Warriors. So look for David Whitehead, and so when you do a search, that's the one that you want to look for. And he has lots of other things. He's got a whole series on the what is that? Not the Hobbit, but the whole trilogy.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings trilogy. Right. Yeah, so he has a whole bunch of videos on that. So those are some of his interests, and so if you're into that kind of thing, if you're into fantasy and Tolkien, definitely go check out his page. And he talks about other things too. Some of the commentators that we listen to, like his name just escaped me. Who he had on a little before we were interviewed.
Oh, Spiro?
Spiro, yeah. So he interviewed Spiro. We follow Spiro. He's very professional, very, very good at his research, and we may bring him up again in our conversation.
In the future, this conversation, we may actually, One more person that we want to specifically give a shout out to is the lovely woman who introduced us.
Right.
Who introduced our work to David.
Yeah.
She's Australian. She has one video on her YouTube channel. Her YouTube channel is Jalalo. It's Jalalo. And she is a singer-songwriter. She's very talented. She did a beautiful song about the dangers of 5G, which is incredible. It's got 26,000 views on it already.
Yeah, so we're gonna put that link in the show notes.
Yeah,
so you can check out that video.
We will certainly put her link in the show notes, absolutely. So you can go there and share that video. There is no doubt in my mind that creative energy will enlighten the masses. So maybe you're not aware of the dangers of 5G, not only physically, but also just in general, the types of things that can be rolled out as a result of 5G are a danger to you in other ways. But what I would suggest is look at her video, look at her music video, share it with your PTA members who, if you hear that they want to install a 5G tower on the school or on a church or something, maybe show them this video, this music video, and enlighten them a little bit.
Regular cell towers on schools is bad enough, but this is going to be even worse.
Yeah. So
the other thing that I wanted to say was it's a fully produced video too. So it's not just her singing live in a club or something. It's actually a fully produced video. So definitely go check that out.
Absolutely, it's a music video.
Yeah, it's a music video. Yeah.
Remember those?
I remember MTV.
So we are Book of Hours. This is our weekly podcast called Bookmark. And here are some of the subjects that we want to tackle today. The first thing we want to talk about is masks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been a real ramp up of mask dialogue and propaganda going on out there, and you're hearing about it a lot more now than we had in the previous weeks. After we flattened the curve, so for some reason they started to let us out. But now that we've been out for a couple of weeks, they're making us put masks on, or being really, really hard about it. And there's some new Pittsburgh rules, but there was for a while there. Well, okay, let's just put it this way. Once they let us out again, and they started charging us to get on the bus, because the Pittsburgh buses were free for a while there during this whole COVID thing. But you had to, get on the back, and you had to wear a mask and all that stuff. Well, they relaxed the rules on the mask. I mean, people are wearing them, and it says we ask you to do it, but they don't say you must. And so I haven't been wearing a mask on the bus, most of the drivers don't wear them either. But I noticed last week that the signage on the front of the bus that usually tells you where it's going and what line it is, they alternate with different messages. Like sometimes it's like "Go Pens," right? The Penguins. This time it was said, "Be safe, wear a mask."
Right, and when COVID first hit, it was "Stay home, save lives,"
Yeah.
which was kind of an interesting thing to see on public transit, which is all about going out. So public transit was telling you to stay home and save lives. So that was kind of an interesting message. I think at this point, most of our followers and most of the people that support us and cheer us on are of the mindset that this is psychological warfare. So a lot of the messaging that you would see on a public transport bus that would say "Stay home, save lives" there's some real cognitive dissonance there. To be able to see a bus that will bring you out of your home to take you to where you need to go, and then to read on the bus's marquee or on the top of the bus, "Stay home, save lives." Well, there's got to be a real disconnect with your brain going on with that message.
You're a bad person for coming out on the bus,
even though the bus is here for you.
Yeah.
If it's dangerous to go outside, then wouldn't you just shut down the entire public transit system?
No, but they have to guilt trip you.
I mean, so this is not really about a health issue. This is about making you feel bad for everything that you do, whether it's taking a bus or breathing. Or eating.
Or in the case of Spain, pooping.
Right, exactly.
So it's a real gaslighting exercise.
That's really what this is about.
Yeah.
This is about psychological warfare. And another comment about the mask, too, to kind of piggyback on what JP just said, is that, more and more OSHA information is coming out about the dangers of masks, that they actually do more harm than good. Now, the response to that might be, "Oh, but China wears masks." You see all over every newsreel that I see of these heavily populated areas in China, they're all wearing masks.
Right.
Well,
there's two reasons for that.
Well, first of all, that's probably propaganda, because there's lots and lots of Chinese people that come directly from China to San Francisco, which is where we're from, and not too many of them are wearing masks. The thing about the Chinese with the mask thing is that I really feel, and I've been told personally by certain Chinese people, that it's their choice, that it's not necessarily mandatory, that there's no real a scare tactic involved with wearing a mask. So for the people who are supportive of the mask suggestion, are using the Chinese as an example, and it's like, well, that's not a very good example, because the Chinese themselves are like, well, it's just something we choose to do.
Right.
I might wear a mask, but 10 of my friends are like, I'm not going to wear a mask.
Well, and it's a cultural thing too.
It's cultural.
Yeah.
It doesn't...
and it's based on cultural perceptions of what will protect me in case there's a virus going around or an illness going around. And I saw it in San Francisco occasionally as well.
Occasionally,
you'd see some people on the bus that would be who were Asian, and they would wear them, and they stuck out because they were one of the few people who actually did it. The other reason I think that a lot of people, especially in like places like Wuhan, is it's a very polluted city, and these places are very polluted. The air pollution is very, very thick. I saw a photo of Wuhan, and it was like, what is that? And it was like fog in San Francisco. I mean, it was really that thick.
Right, and so this isn't an opinion of ours. We're not bashing China. This is coming from people that we know that left China to move to San Francisco, because when people leave China to move to the United States, they come to California and then they stop. They think that the whole United States, a lot of them do actually, think that the whole United States is comprised of the state of California. They have no desire to move further east.
Well, unless it's New York, there's a big Chinese population there too.
Just in general, I'm basically just saying that we're not opining. This isn't an opinion about Wuhan being particularly polluted. This is something that we've heard directly from people from there.
Well,
so
and
we
what
just
we've
want to
read
make
as well, and it's just,
what we've read, and it's just whatever. And it's not about bashing China. That's really just which means that you really shouldn't be using China as an example
Well, that's what we're
to
trying to say.
support your mask obsession. But China does it, so we can too. If China does it all the time, and they're not passing out, and they're not getting headaches, and they're not getting mouth sores, and they're not having breathing problems, then why can't we? Well, you don't know that for sure.
Right.
You don't even know what you're talking about, because the Chinese are not told that they have to wear a mask. It's a choice.
Right.
For various reasons, a myriad of reasons. Women wear a mask in Asian countries because they feel that they've been ogled by men too much, and so they wear a mask, and the mask will signal to the world, leave me the fuck alone. That's what that's about. So there's all sorts of reasons why different people in different cultures do what they do.
Right.
All right, so it's very frustrating though to hear these masketeers use China as a reason to support their thing.
Right.
When it's
I don't get the whole thing about the masking anyway. It's like it's so obvious. I get personally not offended. I get freaked out. I get a little it just makes me feel really weird and horrible,
as it should,
when I see people in masks, because and because it's like all these people their faces are covered, and it's like a muzzle. And it's like watching those episodes of the Handmaid's Tale last season, when they started introducing that, and it's really frightening to see a lot of people, like everybody on the bus, wearing something on their face. It's just horrible.
Right. So, and I think another thing too is that the companies and the stores that are enforcing a recommendation that comes from your local Department of Health, or it might come from the CDC, but it's not grounded really in science or health. These authoritarian stores, these really they're becoming so fascistic about it. They're forcing you to wear a mask, and they're sort of feeling emboldened, and they're really responding well to being authoritarians and bullies. They're really responding well to being bullies, bullying their own customer base. And so we avoid the stores like that, and we avoid establishments like that are really in love with being a bully.
And I think that goes along with all the people that are just the pro-mask, and how vehemently they just like I saw somebody that I've known for years put up on Facebook about a month ago, wear your fucking mask, and I was like,
wow,
no, why?
That's it's and then there's all sorts of medical and scientific reasons why you shouldn't wear a mask.
All this, like Julie mentioned a moment ago, like OSHA, people are finding the things in OSHA that talk about these masks that everybody are like lifting up, like the N95, and what it actually does. And it's just, so this stuff is starting to come out, right? This information has been around for a while, okay, because OSHA is responsible for keeping track of, equipment that is used in the workplace, right? Okay, so all this information in these handbooks are there for the public, but it's now starting to come out because people are like, wait a minute, why are we wearing masks all the time? So surgical masks, N95 masks, they're all very, they're meant for other purposes other than wearing them outside. Okay, for one thing. And the other thing is that even the people who wear them professionally, like surgeons, they're starting to find studies where surgeons are having difficulty health-wise with wearing them for extended periods of time.
Right. If you have to go in, I guarantee you, having been, in the medical environment my whole life because of an autoimmune illness and having had multiple surgeries, I can guarantee you that surgeons, they go into the surgery, they go into the, into it with probably every 20 minutes or so, they take a break while you're under and you're anesthetized. That's why they need someone there to monitor your anesthesia, so that when the surgeon is taking like a 5-minute break by taking his mask off and wiping his forehead, and he's in the middle of a surgery or an operation, he needs a break. So people seem to think that you go in and an hour later you're done. That's not how it works. That's why it takes so long.
When you're asleep, time is distorted like
exactly.
That. But you brought up something to me this morning, the other day actually, that you were experiencing.
Oh right, we'll end the mask portion of this podcast with a personal experience. So, in the 4 months or so that we've been dealing with this psychological warfare, because that's what it is, I've only worn a mask like if I go out and it's like absolutely necessary that I wear a mask in order to get what I need, then I swear I probably only have the mask on like at the most like maybe 15 minutes. But I recently needed to do something and I was in an enclosed situation for over 2 hours and I had to have the mask on the whole time. And by the end of the day, and I didn't even think about it because the person I was with, I like them and we were just chatting the whole time with our masks on, and it was like we were just old friends but we had our masks on.
Old friends with masks on, that's a lot of trust there.
Yeah, so that was kind of weird, but it and it was nice to be able to talk to her because she is a diehard like COVID believer. Like she believes like everything, and I think it's psychological warfare, and I think we've been pretty transparent about our position about this, is that it is a marketing hoax. It is a marketing ploy in order to reset the way human beings operate on the planet. So anyway, for 2 hours I had the mask on. And then I went and met him for lunch and we did a few errands here and there, and I came home and it was early-ish. It was like 5 or so, and I felt so tired. I could not even keep my eyes open. I was literally falling asleep as I was like talking to him. I couldn't believe it. I was so tired. And so went to bed. Finally, the next day I woke up and realized I was tired because of the lack of oxygen to my body. So I had the mask on for the most amount of time that I have ever had the mask on, since this whole thing started. And that really affected my oxygen levels. And so I can tell you from a personal experience that it's not good. It's not good to have it on for more than 15, maybe 20 minutes. And this is just anecdotal. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I'm saying based on my own personal experience and the exhaustion I felt, I couldn't even keep my eyes open. Yeah. It was like I had carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide. Carbon monoxide?
Monoxide, but
poisoning.
You're getting carbon dioxide. I mean, and so the levels inside a mask reached the point where it's like you would set off an alarm if you know. Well, you've seen there's videos going around. If you haven't seen them, you can find them out there where somebody takes an OSHA approved
oxygen
device,
monitor.
oxygen monitor that you would use in a room to find out if the room is properly ventilated and things like that. And the two people that I saw, one guy did it outside, another guy did it inside. They put the device behind the mask and they were breathing, and I mean it went up way past what is safe almost instantly.
Right.
And neither of them had been like exercising beforehand, so that they were at a pretty still heartbeat, and they weren't breathing heavily, and it was just amazing to see that. I have one last little tidbit,
Sure.
2 seconds.
About the mask?
About masks.
Sure.
This morning I was watering in my garden, and our garden opens up to an alley, and there's no fence back there, it's just open. And somebody was walking by, and I said good morning to him, and I turned around, and I was continuing to water some flowers that I put out on the alley because it makes things nice. That's weird, our printer just made noise. And I see, it's going to sleep. Okay. So then I was watering, and then I looked up just inadvertently while I was watering, and I noticed the guy was smiling. Now this looked like a kind of a tough Pittsburgh kind of guy.
Yeah.
But he was smiling. And what I guess I'm getting at is that that's one thing, and one of the main things that you miss when you're when you're wearing a mask, when you're masked up. You cannot see those facial expressions. You might be able to see them in the eyes, but it takes a lot more work, and I think that's a lot of the point. We didn't get into the whole new rules in Pittsburgh, but we don't necessarily have to do that. This kind of fits into it, and I'll just say real quick, they're making people sit at tables with a mask on until your food shows up.
At a restaurant.
Yeah. And again, like being in a restaurant, part of the whole experience of being in a restaurant is to converse and connect. And how can you do that when you're like this? First of all, you can't hear people very well, and second of all, you can't see them smile.
Right.
Okay, you can't see people smile, and so this is part of the fuckery that's going on with all these mask rules and these and I'll call them rules too, because I don't think they're really laws. But people are taking them, businesses and restaurants, they're reading them as law and that they have to do it. I mean, the governor of Pennsylvania has actually threatened restaurants who defy these orders with getting their health certificates taken away or their alcohol licenses taken away.
Even though his COVID powers have been removed from him.
Well,
the General Assembly got together and
so now what they're doing is they're going down to the local level and having the health departments of like say Allegheny County are now issuing these edicts.
Right.
And so it's beyond the governor now, because he said a while ago it's like, well, it's up to the businesses.
Right. So now what they're going to do is they're going to have county by county issue these health orders,
right? Because
the governor doesn't have the COVID power anymore.
Which completely politicizes it, because then you've got depends on whether your county is blue or red.
Exactly,
right?
And we want to move on to another topic that is personal to us here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. For the entire month of June, we have been bombarded with fireworks, fire bombs, firecrackers, just loud booming noises, sometimes even throughout the day. It typically starts around 8 o'clock at night, and it goes all the way to like 11 o'clock at night. I'm surprised that for the month of June we were able to do anything or function at all because of these bombing campaigns.
Well,
on us.
I tend to ignore them more. I mean, sometimes they get to me, but generally I ignore them. But I want to say, I mean, this is a phenomenon that's going on all over the country. We know at least throughout the United States. Now, whether it's going on throughout the world, I don't know. But New York, I mean, we've been seeing tweets from people saying, stop, please, stop. And just they're getting, and they're getting it much worse than we are. I don't think they're allocating as many funds to this part of the world as they are to like the Bay Area and to New York, because I mean we were seeing some tweets coming out of Oakland as well where they were going like all night, and pets, animals are really traumatized, and I think that's also something that's deliberate. we're moving into a place where they don't want us to have pets because
Right.
we're going to be the pets.
We are the pets.
And our little cat, who's a little, toughie, who
A
grew
rescue.
Yeah, she was a rescue. I mean,
Yeah.
she's a little feral cat. She grew up in the alley. We watched her all last summer, just kind of, walk around dazed because she wasn't getting enough food or water. But she's pretty tough. She knows her way around the roads and the streets, and
She knows how to stay alive.
she knows how to stay alive and when to hide, when not to hide, and I noticed before, like, noises didn't bother her, but now she is walking around, like, always looking around corners, always cautious, very scared.
And when they go, she has huge ears.
Yeah.
And when the fireworks go off and the firebombing goes off, her ears, like, start to twitch and move around and stuff. And
Yeah.
she takes the stress pose that cats take, which is kind of like this, the stress pose.
And it's hard to comfort her, too, because she isn't...
She hates to be held.
She hates to be held. She's just a little alley cat, right? So she's just like, yeah.
She goes like this when we try to hold her.
I can hold her
like,
for about 3
doesn't like
seconds
it.
and, like, under her, like this, and pet her. And then she's like, okay, enough.
Yeah, she doesn't like it.
Yeah, she doesn't like it at all.
But I think more about this. So thanks to Obama bombing all over the world and
Using up his allocation.
and using up his allocation of drone bombs, right? It was drone bombing. They actually, the administration actually ran out of bombs. So when they decided to incarcerate the entire globe and restructure the United States and wage psychological warfare on us, they were like, well, we don't have any bombs left. We may as well use what comes next, which is fireworks and firebombing and things like that you would find at carnivals. And I'm not talking about like the kind you can just like go to the market and get some fireworks. I'm talking like
not the fireworks stand.
Not the fireworks stand. I'm talking commercial grade fireworks that you would find at like the county fair, or you would find at like Disney.
Yeah.
At the end of the night, Disney used to do a big firework display
Right.
every night at the same
They're
time.
pretty sophisticated.
These fireworks,
They're not bottle rockets.
they're no way. And so what it's meant to do is to rattle you, because it's been going on a whole month. It's been going on for an entire month, and it's definitely affected me. Like last night I found myself like screaming in the backyard, like, stop, stop this, stop these fireworks. It's and that's the point, is they want it to rattle you. They want to break down your stress factors. They want you to be constantly stressed out, because stress induces inflammation in the body. Your body gets into this fight or flight mode where you're always feeling like you need to protect
You're
yourself.
jacked up on adrenaline.
Your serotonin levels rise, and your hormones go out of whack. You want to, if you have children, you want to protect your children. So all of these things are being done to you on purpose.
Right.
To elevate you. And why would they want to do that? Because they want to make you susceptible to maybe an inoculation. They want to break down barriers in your body, maybe to make you to have an adverse reaction to an inoculation or some other protocol that they have that's going to be coming down the pipe.
It's also part of brainwashing, right?
Exactly.
So,
it's a part of brainwashing.
Yeah.
So the fireworks are it's psychological warfare is what it is. It's part of the psychological warfare. They want us traumatized, and they also want us kind of stupid. One of the things that we've noticed, so when the fireworks first started happening at the beginning of the month, we were like, oh, okay, that's cool. So it's just some random...
Started around Flag Day.
Yeah, some random commercial, professional fireworks that are going off. Oh, that's cute. We took some videos, but then it just never stopped.
Right.
And so now what's happening is that the locals who don't understand things like regime change operations and color revolutions and psychological warfare and all this, they are now doing really stupid things like lighting sparklers, like these big sparklers you put on the ground,
like the kind that you get at the fireworks stand, right?
You know,
so
you put them on
fountains,
the fountains. You put them on the ground. They whistle and they go like this, and they put out a lot of sparks. They're lighting them in places that have like wood chips.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which is like, so we are home and we saw that this was happening, so we ran across the street and we said, or you know, JP said to them, okay, so where you are standing, there used to be a house here and it burned down. The thing that you're standing on is wood. Wood is flammable. Maybe go do your celebration, because you know it was a legitimate
right. I didn't tell them
celebration.
To stop. I just said, can you do this somewhere else?
You know, when the locals do it, they watch the big commercial fireworks display and they think, oh, it's cool. Somebody's doing it, so I can do it too. Mm-hmm. And so that's the whole thing with psychological warfare, is they want you to burn down your own your own cities and towns and streets and neighborhoods. They want you to go, oh, wow, that's cool. I guess I can do it too, because they bank on you not understanding that when you set fire to wood, it could burn things down. It's just, you know, they bank on you not understanding those things. And that's part of psychological warfare as well, is that you will end up being your own worst enemy in the long run.
Right. Well, I think that also goes along with the whole, you know, with the whole looting thing that was going on at the end of May. You know, with the Target thing. I mean, I'm sure that there were agents provocateurs who were initiating these things, and then locals would go, oh, well, hey, let's go get some, and then they catch it on video, and then, right. You know, maybe these people get arrested, and you know, and then they can financialize them through the prison system and that kind of thing, or they just use them for, you know, scapegoating purposes on, you know, the media, you know, whatever their agenda is in the long run, they will use that as a means of getting a message across. And so if it's just to say, oh, look, you know, we're you know, the systems are breaking down in Minneapolis and people are calling for the end of the police, and you know, and look at this looting here, you know, so they're giving you two messages at once, causing more cognitive dissonance, causing more trauma. And all these things go on. So I mean, there and Julie and I have pointed this out before. It's like we're getting this shit coming at us from all directions, and a lot of it is like completely opposite information, or it is you know, causing cognitive dissonance through the things, and making people, you know, stay attached to their own oppression, you know, of, you know, like, well, we have to stay apart, and that virus might get us, so we got to cover up, and we can't be outside, and you know, so there's all this shit that's going on, and it's just like they're getting at you from all different angles. So it's definitely, you know, I think it's along the lines of what the military has been doing for years to places that they attack, and you know, you know, we used to hear stories about how they would play loud heavy metal music to prisoners of war, or
that's
terrorists.
What the fireworks are about.
Right, exactly.
That's exactly what the fireworks are about.
So
is this kind of, you know,
it's homegrown shock and awe. You know, it's sort of like it's like, you know, like the miniature version of shock and awe, because they don't want to destroy the buildings here. You know,
where else are they going to install 5G if they destroy all the buildings?
Exactly.
So even if they did have the bombs, they probably wouldn't use them on us.
Yeah.
They would, because they want us around to...
They do have the bombs, but they're giving them to Saudi Arabia to bomb Yemen.
To bomb Yemen, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
So that's what the fireworks is about. Sorry for the noise. We have all of our windows open, and we're in our front room, where the window is closest to the street. But that's last thing we want to talk about is something that JP has done a little research on this morning, and we might actually do a video essay about it in the future.
Yeah, because it fits in with the series that we're doing, and I touched on it a little bit in the introduction, where we're talking about multi-stakeholder coalitions. Part of multi-stakeholder coalitions, you know, it's like NGOs, corporations, and something called a social movement organization.
Right. So social movement organization, or SMOs. SMO is the acronym for social movement organization. It will be an acronym or a term that you will hear on the World Economic Forum's website. So keep that in mind. David, in our Saturday conversation, had said, what are some of the terms that we can look out for to know that it's kind of a red flag? Well, social movement organizations is one of those terms, and SMO is one of the acronyms for
Right.
that.
So we, as we were talking about that this morning, we're like, well, that's basically what Black Lives Matter is.
Yes.
And, we were talking about Spiro earlier. He's a podcaster and independent journalist, and he came out with a video talking about who's actually funding the Black Lives Matter movement. And it's not a nonprofit organization. It's an SMO. It's a social movement organization, and their social movement is anti-racism and whatever. That's fine. But so generally with SMOs, they are part of a larger movement, right? So like PETA is part of the example that I saw in Wikipedia was PETA is part of like the vegan movement, right? So they're just one little organization that's part of that entire thing. So Black Lives Matter, they're part of a larger movement, and there's other SMOs that belong to that. So back to Spiro was talking about how all these corporations are feeding money into the Black Lives Matter organization. And the rhetoric that's they are basically, what we're finding is that the rhetoric that's coming out of the Black Lives Matter movement and protests are starting to disseminate out to other SMOs that fit into other things that are going on along with the Fourth Industrial Revolution and sustainable development and the Great Reset, as we talked about. And this is all part of something called communalism that we'll talk about in just a minute.
Communalism?
Communitarianism. Sorry, no, that's Murray Bookchin's thing. Communalism.
Communalism is not bad, actually.
It's not bad. Yeah, communitarianism is a much different thing altogether.
Not good.
Yeah, it's not good. And then we talked to David Whitehead about that as well in that 3-hour conversation. But so the rhetoric that's coming out of there, and some of the phrases that are coming out of there, like silence is violence, is a very gaslighting type of term, because it's easy to say, it must have been they must have market tested it. It's easy to say it means nothing, and when you say it, you think you know what it means, but you don't really. It's sort of like the 2 Minutes Hate in 1984 by George Orwell.
It's a great ad campaign.
Right?
Everything about this,
because you can put it on a sign,
it's
right?
just like an ad campaign. It's like Coke. It's the real thing. It's just not real.
And then other concepts get floated out, like it's like just saying you're not racist is actually racist, which is like complete cognitive dissonance. Okay, but these ideas are getting disseminated out to other SMOs, and so I picked up on an SMO this morning. I used to belong to one called the SF Bike Coalition. And they referred to another SMO out there, and they're called the untokenism, or the untokening. That's what it is, the untokening, which refers to token.
Sounds like a horror movie,
right? The untokening.
Yeah.
What they are, okay, so like a lot of things, all things in communitarianism, all things that are going on with the Fourth Industrial Revolution is, they use corporate feel-good language, and they use ideas and concepts that sound good on the surface. So what they are is they are a multi racial, multi-ethnic is a better word, multi-ethnic transportation or active transportation type of organization. So they promote bike lanes and biking and walking and things like this.
Which sounds great.
Which just sounds great.
Great.
And it's really something that I come out of myself. And I start reading it and I start looking at it, and it's like things feel hinky, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I was looking at in some of the tweets that were going on with this organization were this sort of anti-white straight male kind of rhetoric,
Very
which
okay,
the people that I come from, white straight males, yeah, we've been running the world, but they're still running the world. See, and that's
they're still running the world.
But the problem is they're aiming this language at people like me who have never run the world, but are of this class or of this type of person. I can't help the fact that I'm straight and that I'm white and that I'm a man.
Right. I think the ironic thing about SMOs and NPOs, nonprofit organizations, and NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and all of these acronyms out there that suppose they push forward with, we have to do more equality and we have to do more opportunity for marginalized communities. The very people that fund them and the very people that are creating the marketing campaigns around them are the very things that they are criticizing.
Exactly.
So the white powerful males are what's behind all this.
Right. But getting back to so in a lot of ways, the messages that they're putting out there are racism, right? They're holding somebody's race and gender and and sexual orientation. So it is prejudice. It's just being put onto somebody else that really probably was never racist or prejudiced in the first place. But the rhetoric that's coming out of this is that okay, so now what's going on is we're going to hold your feet to the fire, Mr. So-and-so, who's been part of the the bike movement and is involved in running the transportation world these days. We're going to hold your feet to the fire to come out and say, something that is, against racism in your own words on this particular platform, and you better say the right message, or else we're going to call you a racist. Which is just it's
racist.
It's
in
racist.
Itself.
Well, and it's what's the word we like to use? We put it on one of the masks that we designed.
Oh, it's coercion.
It's coercion.
Right.
Right. And it's the ultimate in, and I don't like this term, but I'm going to use it. It's the ultimate in virtue signaling. Right.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
forcing somebody else to come out and do what these other people are doing and say this thing. It's an empty message. It will ultimately be an empty message no matter what. And so the whole rhetoric that's going on out there is an empty message, and it doesn't mean anything, but people pick up on it and they think that it does. And we just had a little protest rally out in our little part of Pittsburgh, and it people got all up, up in arms, and they did their little rally, but it's like it doesn't make any difference.
No, it won't. The best way to
it just gets people riled up.
The best way to really know if a movement is truly authentic, first of all, you have to be able to start doing a little bit of investigation on your own. Nothing is pure and organic, and nothing is grassroots in this country anymore. I don't know about other countries. I don't know. I can only speak to you from where I am in the eastern part of the United States. There's nothing really grassroots here. If there are, you won't hear about it on the news. Nike certainly isn't going to come out and support it the way they came out and supported Black Lives Matter. It's not going to be well funded. It's probably going to be little old ladies in a sewing circle going, let's have a book, a book reading or whatever. And that's where your true grassroots movements come from, because people come together and talk. So, all of these SMOs and nonprofits, they talk a good game, and because everything in the United States is designed to trigger you emotionally, you feel bad for marginalized people who've never had an opportunity, who weren't born into a meritocracy. You feel bad for that, so they use your emotions to pull you into this to this place, when the reality of it is that they're all very well funded. All of the billions of dollars, which Black Lives Matter in particular has made, will not go to some of these bombed out, impoverished communities that we pass through every day in Pittsburgh. They won't go there. They're going to go back into the organization heads, so back into the different chapters, to justify more marketing campaigns, to justify salaries, to justify more movements,
and more, agent provocateur type
and
of activity.
nothing is going to help actual people who want systemic, real change. They want to be able to say, my child works hard in school. He wants to go to college. Why is he on the school to prison pipeline instead of the school to college pipeline?
Right.
Why is he targeted and this and that? Now, that's kind of a 20th century or early 21st century idea. Now that we are post-COVID and in this psychological warfare, everything's on its head. So we'll see what happens. But it all comes down to class war and class analysis. If any of these organizations focus on a marginalized community without mentioning that there are people within these communities that are of a different race, there are plenty of poor white people, as well. So there's a class discussion that's totally missing from this. And also, if they're not coming out fully and saying, yes, we're funded to the tune of, $687 billion a year.
Right.
If they're not coming out and telling you that so that you can go, well, where's all that money going?
Right.
Where's it going?
Well, also look at the leadership too. I mean, I was looking at the photo of this organization, the Untokening, on Twitter. And all these people, even though they were of different ethnicities, races, etc., they were all of the same class. They were all of middle to upper middle class. And what we've talked about before, sort of the managerial class, the 10% of the population. And they all were educated. They were all of a certain type of person that would be attracted to doing this kind of thing, getting bike lanes in place, for instance. And so it's disingenuous, for one thing, because they are not talking, again, they're not doing a class analysis. They aren't talking about the difference between what they're saying and how it affects the poor communities. They're just talking race. And race has always been used to separate people on the in the class divide, right? And so separating poor people so that they don't punch up. The other thing that you'll see, and I saw it on their site, are there's always keywords like we were talking about before, and equity is like one of those words that gets used a lot on the
World
Economic Forum's website. They love that word. Equality as well, but equity is one of those words that they use a lot. And if you see that, just think it's the opposite of that.
Right. So it's equity for the managerial class, and it's equity for the billionaire class that controls them and pays them.
Right.
It's equity for them. It's not equity for you.
Yeah.
It's equity for their job security and their insurance, their job insurance, and also equity for them to have the bully pulpit, to speak, to say, we are the Untokening, and everything wrong with the world is because of white men. The end.
Who are dominating the bike lanes, whatever.
The end.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no discussion about class analysis. There's no discussion about, a meritocracy. There's no discussion about inherited poverty and generational poverty. There's no discussion whatsoever about why is it that there's a billionaire every 80 blocks in San Francisco, and it looks like the gleaming, shining city on the hill, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania looks like a bombed out third world country.
Right.
I can't even get a sinkhole fixed out in front of my house.
Right.
So
not properly anyway.
So what does the Untokening have to say about that?
Right.
About class analysis?
Right. And and the thing is when it comes down to it, they're basically the same as me, or because I got a college education, I worked in the corporate world, and so we're essentially the same type of people, just we're different colors. And that's the only difference between us. So, it's a very insidious and very disingenuous way of framing a discussion about something that really needs to be talked about in a different way completely. But I want to switch over real quick because we're running out of time. I want to talk about communitarianism. All this stuff fits into the philosophy of communitarianism. Communitarianism is the philosophy of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is what we're going through right now. We just did a video called Communitarianism. You want to say something regarding that real quick?
Sure. So communitarianism is where, ultimately it's exactly what we've been talking about, the social movement organizations. You can't have communitarianism without these empty organizations and these empty acronyms. You can't have it without it. So communitarianism, in my opinion, is easy to kind of just put away. Like, you can really just kind of like destroy this whole philosophy with one responsive sentence, which is, where's your class analysis,
right,
and how you getting paid?
Right.
And that's it. That's
right,
it. You can
right,
you go back down to who, where, follow the money, right? Always. So, but anyway, it is the philosophy by which the Fourth Industrial Revolution evolves.
Mm-hmm.
It's the philosophy by which it grows. It's, because every industrial revolution needs some kind of philosophy to push it forward.
And,
so,
yeah.
So communitarianism is our next video. It's 45 minutes long. It's our longest video essay that we've done so far. We have released a teaser for it. If we can get up to 11 patrons by July 3rd, which is this Friday, which is his birthday, then then we can release it to the public. I mean, we're probably going to release it to the public anyway.
Right, but what we're looking to do is to get, this is part of the marketing, is we're trying to get, 11 patrons in. If you want to see it, okay, if you want to see it ahead of time, our patrons have already seen it. The patrons that we have, they've already seen it. If you want to see it today, you can go to our PayPal, paypal.me/bookofhours, and donate $5 or more, and you can see it today. We'll send you the link.
Right.
If you want to become a patron, which is basically a monthly stipend or monthly payment out to us through Patreon, you go to patreon.com/bookofhours, and you can start at $2 a month. That's $24 a year. Okay.
Right.
$2 a month. We will send you the link.
Right. Or you can just have it on our Patreon page.
Right.
It'll just,
Yeah, you'll be able to see it. Yeah, if you go through Patreon, you'll be able to see it. Yeah.
Right
directly.
on the Patreon page.
Yeah.
So I think that, and so then and we're going to wrap it up because we're almost at our end time here. The next video essay that we're currently working on and kind of giving it shape is something called Resilient Cities. And you can just type in the term resilient cities, and you will be surprised at where that term comes from. And it's one of those terms that has a reverse Orwellian meaning. So you think resilient cities, that sounds great. Strong, resilient. You think, ooh, you can bounce back from tragedy. Resilient, ooh, yay. But it's actually a very Orwellian term.
It's a way of financializing a municipality, or a large metropolitan area.
Right.
The way they're financializing everything else. So it's we're working on that right now in terms of researching it. We'll start. We're going to start writing it probably next week. Between doing these kinds of things as well as the garden outside, it's starting to pick up. And just everything else. So
but this is what we do. This is how we. This is our job. Our job is Book of Hours. Our job is to cultivate a creative dialogue into these narratives that may be pummeling, especially your social media feed from your woke friends. It's amazing all the information that just gets poured out onto the internet for people to access. What we try to do is, that day when you need a little break from all the details and information, is we take all that information and then give it back to you through aesthetics, through music, through imagery that we either have on hand from our own recording or stuff that we research and search for and dig through all of the millions of options that are out there, and we find the one thing that would really work well with a message, because we really truly believe, like I said at the very beginning of this hour-long podcast, is that we truly believe that aesthetics and art and creativity is what's going to educate. It's what is going to help people who don't understand what's going on. And it's very important that they do understand that there's some pretty dark stuff at play going on, and it's not my job to shake them awake. It's not my job to say, change your mind, get your kid out of school, don't put a mask on, don't get the inoculation, don't do this, don't do that. It's not my job to do that.
Well, and people don't respond very well to that
They
as
don't
well.
respond well to being chastised. And people are very proud of what they do know. And so it's not my job to necessarily change their mind. It's my job to say, here's a really pretty video that's very emotive and creative. Do you like it?
Right. Well,
and then you can just.
what we find is, and this is not very well known, is people respond to art, and
They do,
and what art
yeah.
is a way to distill an idea down to something that's easy, maybe not easy to understand, but you take it in and think about it. Right?
Exactly.
It's something that you ponder and think about. And art has been described as balm to the soul. I don't know if ours is, because of the kinds of things that we talk about. We talk about very important things.
Yeah.
And what we try to do is give you something to chew on here, while you're doing other things.
Right.
Okay. And that's basically it. And I think
Yeah.
we hit our hour.
Yeah, so we're here. So please tune in next week for Bookmark, Book of Hours podcast. And thank you for joining today.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.